Hi. Piers Morgan, he had a few people on his show who wanted to talk about the Andrew and Tristan Tate situation. One of them being a good friend of Andrew Tate. His name is Michael Franzese, if I'm pronouncing his name properly. Okay. And I've got a few things that I'd like to say about this. Okay, so here we go.
President Trump's election was powered by a broad coalition of voters who were united by their desire for change. But MAGA isn't united on everything. Andrew and Tristan Tate's visit to the US has divided the right, as evidenced by the frosty reception they got from Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis.
No involvement in that. I read about it through the media. Clearly, the federal government has jurisdiction, whether they want to rebuff his entry into the United States, and I have confidence that whether it's Pam Bondi or Kristi Noem, that they will be looking at that. I do know our Attorney General, James Uthmeyer, is looking at what state hooks and jurisdiction we may have to be able to deal with this. But the reality is no, Florida is not a place where you're welcome with that type of conduct in the air. And I don't know how it came to this. We were not involved. We were not notified. I found out through the media that this was something that was happening.
Well, Florida opened a criminal investigation into the Tates shortly afterwards, and the brothers moved on to Las Vegas, where they got a decidedly warmer reception. They even sat cage side at the UFC after shaking hands with head honcho Dana White. Now, critics on the right say the brothers are immoral, alleged criminals with no place in the conservative movement. Supporters say, tough luck, they're back, and they're an embodiment of the free speech embracing, woke rejecting movement that just took back control. So who's right? Well, Zach Bonfiglio, aka the Misfit Patriot, and host TMP Uncensored, former capo of the Colombo crime family, Michael Franzese, defense lawyer and legal scholar Alan Dershowitz, radio host and senior policy advisor to the American Family Association, Jenna Ellis, and Sarah Stock, journalist at SlightlyOffensive.com, have all joined me to debate this. Let me start with you, if I may, Jenna Ellis. What is you object to the Tates? Given that at the moment they haven't been convicted of any crimes, what is your main objection to them?
Yeah, so the problem that I have with conservatives pushing this false dichotomy is that they're making the argument that if the Tates are objecting to some things on the left, then that makes them solidly right. I think that we need to define the contours and boundaries of what a true conservative is instead of pushing this false dichotomy. So the Tates rose to fame with some really good influence. At the height of the woke feminization of culture, Andrew Tate was right about masculinity returning. He was right about mass migration. He made some good comments on some other things. But that doesn't mean that conservatives then need to go and treat them with kid gloves, invite them to conversations, and completely ignore all of the other alleged criminal activity. I mean, the Tates are openly saying that they've had sex with 15-year-old girls, that they've used underage girls on webcams. They made their fortune on pornography. Those are not conservative values. And some of these things are allegedly criminal.
Well, it seems to me like some conservatives, like where men are concerned, like men don't have to be living a conservative life themselves, but if they go and preach stuff, like if they come out and say stuff that isn't considered PC, like, oh, women can't do anything without a man in charge to tell them what to do, or if women have a career, they'll be a crazy Catwoman, or women in the workplace is ruining our society. If you're a man and you come out with stuff like that, the conservatives, some of them, not all of them, some of them will say like, oh yeah, they're one of us, because they seem to want as many numbers as possible. They want as many people as possible on their side, but they don't seem to care whether the men are leading conservative lives themselves. Andrew Tate, if you were to leave aside for a minute the crimes that he's accused of and just look at the way he lives his life and the things that he advocates for, is like he doesn't live a conservative life, okay? He himself believes that sleeping with as many women as possible, he said about impregnating as many women as possible, and that he thinks you're a beta male if you don't have lots of kids with lots of different women. And he himself is not somebody who could be married and have a happy family, okay? So he is as far from conservative as possible, okay? But they just see it as like, oh, he's one of us because he says the stuff that they like. And regarding masculinity, he might say some things that sound empowering to men, but like I've said before, he does not live by his word himself. He promotes the idea of men being disciplined and hard-working, yet he himself became rich through being a scam artist, okay? And he's talked openly about that, about how he scammed men out of their money, how he's had them selling their houses, taking out loans because they thought they were going to meet these webcam models when they weren't. So he scammed men and
said to him, like, you know what, fuck it, I'm taking over. So what I did is I unplugged their keyboards. I plugged a new one in for me behind the screen. So the chicks would sit there and hit a keyboard that wasn't plugged in. And me and my brother, and eventually some staff I trained, would do all the talking. The girls were just pure, just losers, just laughing and doing this. Their titties out. And they're talking to fucking ice cold hustlers. We were taking their money, all of it. They come and say, all of it. We're fucking milking them dry. Women have no clue how to do. They don't have, because they don't have the looks. They don't have any of the intellect. They have no game. Nothing. Nothing. Nah, you got a man with game and give him a female's body, a female avatar. You will fuck a guy up.
I had these guys selling their houses, life savings, loans, all of it to me. Give me it all. So like, and it's basic shit, right? You'd have a guy.
Feel bad or no?
Fuck no. Don't give a solitary fuck.
He's still scamming men now. I've said before. Gadget, he's a guy who he does videos on YouTube calling out some of the scams that Andrew Tate does. He's still scamming men now. Okay, so he's got rich just through scamming. Okay, you know, and he's bragged about not paying taxes in different countries. He didn't bother paying taxes, so he wasn't giving to society, which again, you know, in the red pill they say, oh, it's masculine to be a protector and a provider, and he's not either of those. Okay, he's dangerous to women. He's the kind of guy that women need protecting from. Okay, and he doesn't provide for anybody. He takes from society, like I said, scamming men, not paying taxes. He's admitted stealing money from the women who were working for him. Okay, and he used the lover boy method, to manipulate them into being cam girls. He's talked openly about that. Okay, so he doesn't protect, he doesn't provide, which is what they say is masculine. He's not hard-working and disciplined. You know what? He doesn't do good himself, but because he says stuff that sounds empowering to men, they say, like, oh, he's a good role model for men, but they listen to his words rather than look at what he's doing. Okay, and this is something they say, like, about everybody, isn't it? That, like, you shouldn't just listen to what people say, you should watch what they do. And Andrew Tate does not live by his word. He does not live a good, honest life. He's not somebody who is a masculine man. He's not a good role model for men.
So for conservatives to suggest that this is just lawfare is a two-sided coin, because yes, it's lawfare if you go after your political opponents, but it's also lawfare if you don't pursue a valid criminal investigation against your political allies. So I think that we need to be more nuanced here. And I think that Governor DeSantis, my own governor in the state of Florida, and the new AG, James Uthmeyer, are absolutely correct to go after the alleged criminal activity, open an investigation, see where it leads. That's what the law is supposed to do. Yes, innocent till proven guilty, but they're not just completely innocent because they happen to align with conservatives on some narrow issues.
Okay, Alan Dershowitz, I want to play a clip from Andrew Tate, who appeared on the Patrick McDavid PBD podcast a few days ago. Let's take a listen.
No, but let's understand, why has the Matrix put this paradigm together? Why do they allow and continue to tell us that women are better than us to destroy masculinity? They're equal to us, even though they need DEI. And at the same time, they're children who are susceptible to our godlike powers to control their minds, and that we're responsible for all of the decisions. It's very simple.
Nobody thinks you've got godlike powers to control people's mind, Andrew. Okay, nobody thinks that, okay, other than you and maybe some of the brainwashed fans of his. Okay, this is like an example of how Andrew Tate kind of manipulates these sort of young vulnerable men who call themselves the red pill. Okay, this is how he manipulates them. Okay, because he's playing on the things that these men are already sort of obsessed with in the red pill. Okay, because they talk about in the manosphere, in the red pill community, they talk about women being treated like children, and they say, oh, women never have any accountability for anything, and the accountability is always being put on men, and women are being treated like children who can't make their own decisions. Okay, they say this sort of thing in the manosphere, and while it is true that there are some times when people do treat women a little bit less accountable than men, there are times when people sympathize more with women than what they do with men in our society, so sometimes sort of put the blame on men for stuff in when it's stuff that women are accountable for as well. Okay, that is true, but they go so far into this sort of ideology in the red pill that they become so sort of brainwashed with it that they always think it's women playing the victim, even when like it actually is times when it's women are the victim. And Andrew Tate knows this, and he knows to sort of play on the things that the guys in the red pill are kind of a little paranoid about, okay? Like the term the Matrix. I mean, the term the Matrix was being used in the red pill community before Andrew Tate became famous. So now he's sort of like latched onto it and is like, oh, I'm the victim of the Matrix, okay? There's this Matrix and it's because, oh, you know, I'm a victim of the Matrix. This is why this is happening to me, okay? And he knows that these guys are likely to believe it because if they already think this way, they're likely to see it in everything, okay? It's the same as like when they talk about the Me Too movement. Like, I mean, Andrew Tate will go on about how dangerous this society is because of the Me Too movement, okay? Now, there are times, I do think that there are times when men are unfairly demonized in our society, okay? Like, most recently, the man versus bear thing that was going around, okay? Like, I do think that is misandric for people to be sort of saying like, oh, I'd rather be alone in the woods with a bear than a man, okay? Because it's demonizing men, okay? When the majority of men are actually more protective of women, okay? You know, most men are not, you know, violent or abusive to women, okay? So you get this sort of thing in our society, which is an unfair demonization of men. When it comes to the Me Too movement, I mean, I'm kind of in two minds about this, because, I mean, it has done some good. It has helped women that have been victims. Some women get justice, okay, but then, like with everything, it goes too far, okay? And I kind of think it would have been better if the Me Too movement actually included men, okay? Because men and boys can be victims of, like, SA theirself as well. So I kind of think if it included men, so it was there to help all victims come forward, not just women and girls, then it would be seen as less of a man against woman and woman against man thing, okay? That's what I think, okay? And same with, like, the teach boys not to R-word women in schools. Like, you know, MRAs complain about that. They say, like, oh, but that's, you know, demonizing boys because boys already know that it's wrong to do this. And I think, well, you know, if in sex education at school, if they just taught both the boys and the girls to, you know, respect boundaries and not pressure other people into doing stuff that they don't want to do, then, you know, the boys wouldn't seem so singled out, okay? So I think, in my opinion, it would have been better just, instead of making it like, oh, men are the bad ones and women are the good ones, it would have been better if it included, you know, that men can be victims of abuse as well, okay? But in the case of people like Andrew Tate, okay, when he complains about how dangerous it is in the Me Too era, he's worried about stuff, getting into trouble for stuff he has done. That's the difference. It's not false allegations he's worried about. He's worried about getting into trouble for things that he has done. All right. And it's the same sort of thing with Russell Brand, okay? I mean, Russell Brand denies the allegations against him as well. The reason why I think it is likely that Russell Brand is guilty is because of the text conversation, okay? There's a text conversation between him and one of the alleged victims where Russell Brand is apologising to this woman for the thing that he is accused of. And it's like, well, why would you be apologising if you didn't do it in the first place, okay? So this is what I'm talking about. These guys who complain about being victims of the Matrix, victims of the Me Too era, when they're actually, they don't want to get into trouble for stuff that they have done, okay? And these people who think like, oh, the Matrix is after them because of their views, I kind of think like, right, if you think that the reason why Andrew Tate is in trouble is because he says controversial views and the Matrix, you know, people want to shut him up, they don't like his controversy, they don't like the things that he said on social media, if you really think that, then why do you not think the entire red pill community is also being put in prison then? Because the stuff Andrew Tate says is not any more controversial than what all of the red pill is, okay? I mean, people like Myron Gaines from Fresh and Fit, he tweets out misogynistic tweets to get attention. Pearl Davis tweets out misogynistic tweets to get attention, and they're not locked up. They've not been accused of crimes, have they? Okay, and the same sort of thing with Russell Brand. Like when Russell Brand was accused, people were saying like, well, Andrew Tate was saying like, oh well, this is because he spoke out against the COVID vaccine, so now the Matrix is coming after him, and it's like, there were lots of people that were complaining about the COVID vaccines and saying that you shouldn't take the COVID vaccines. Candace Owens has gone on and on and on about how she doesn't think anybody should take the COVID vaccine. And has she been put in prison? Has she been accused of any crimes? It's like, no, it's not the Matrix, okay? These guys do not want to get into trouble for crimes that they did commit, okay? And the Tate brothers, the ultimate victims, okay? They go on and on and on about what victims they are, okay? When there is loads of footage. Basically, every crime that Andrew Tate has committed, has been accused of, he has admitted in one form or another.
You actually have to downplay your relationship with the girl of 6 years. Relationship with the girl of 6 years, which is 6 years. And I only get away with that because the girl of 6 years plays along. So Vivian's been with me
So he's been with Vivian for 6 years, right?
completely head over heels in love with me. She wants kids with me, everything. And we met and we fell, whatever, we're in love. But when I bring on new girls, I usually pair them with Vivian. Because Vivian's younger. Melissa's like 28, Vivian's like 21.
Vivian's 21. And at this point, he's been a girlfriend for 6 years. So you do the math. It means that they met when she was 15 years old.
Take this away from me. No, I want a virgin wife at 16 who's going to obey me. That's what I want.
I was contacted by Andrew Tate, the older of the Tate brothers, 3 years ago when I was just 16.
So I messaged her. She's like, I'm only 16. I was like, give a fuck. Know about me. I'm 21. I don't care. Bruv, I was banging her, like looking at her Facebook on the phone, like just staring at a different face. Because I had to. I'm fucking all these 16-year-old women or 18-year-old women, whatever the law is in America. 18?
It's 18 usually. You get married at 16. I think.
All right, in Romania it's 16, sorry.
Yeah.
So if I'm fucking all these 18-year-old women, blah, blah, blah.
16 I think.
All right, in Romania it's 16.
Kick them out of Romania. Well, yeah, if they want Romanians here, they'll let my come here and human traffic. Kick me out.
He just admitted, this was saying, he just admitted they let his N-word butt come in and human traffic. And I don't think he meant to do that.
Are you seriously so offended I strangled you a little bit? You didn't fucking pass out. Chill the fuck out. Jesus Christ. I thought you were cool. What's wrong with you? Am I a bad person? Because the more you didn't like it, the more I enjoyed it. I fucking loved how much you hated it. Turn me.
I don't go see a lawyer to talk about the law. I walked in there and said, listen, I've committed multiple felonies. Am I going to go to jail?
Well, probably.
Well, then see ya. That was a female. I went to a man's office, said, I've committed multiple felonies.
There are things we can do. We can try this, we can try that.
No problem.
I make one call, we send somebody else to jail.
He is the new Andrew. He shave his head and he go. I'm like, all right, it's cool. That's the lawyer I want.
Run out my ideas. That's right, lock the door, you You knew I was going to beat the out of you. If you behaved, I wouldn't have to hit you, would I? You don't. Get out. You can't stay in there forever.
Hours worth of footage of him talking about the Loverboy method and how he groomed young women and teenage girls to become to do webcam, okay? And that is sex trafficking, okay? Because a lot of people think sex trafficking is like if a guy goes up and basically kidnaps a woman off of the street and drags her into a van kicking and screaming and then abducts her that way. It's like, no, I mean, a lot of these sex traffickers, they manipulate, and it's normally very vulnerable young women and teenage girls. Because, well, for one thing, I mean, obviously young people are more naive and gullible anyway, and particularly when, like, the youngest victims of the Tates are, like, 15, okay, they're more gullible anyway. But the girls that are more likely to fall for the Loverboy method are ones that like they didn't come from loving homes, you know, like they might have been in care, they might have ran away from home, they might have been homeless on the street. Okay, so they're people that they're more likely to fall for the like fake affection because they've never had real loving parents in their life. Okay, so they're more desperate for love. You know, the Loverboy method is playing on a wound, it's playing on the need to be loved, and people who haven't come from a loving home are more likely to you know, fall for this fake affection. And I'm not saying everybody like who gets trafficked from like, you know, bad homes, and that everybody didn't have good parents, but it's more likely to be vulnerable young women and girls that, you know, didn't come from a loving home that are more likely to be preyed upon and more likely to fall for this. Okay, so no, Andrew, we don't believe that it's because you've got godlike powers. It's just because that you're a heartless, evil person. You and your brother are heartless, evil people that don't have any conscience. Okay, so got no problem doing evil things to young, vulnerable girls.
Simple. Because by putting together that paradigm, they can pick any man at random they don't like. Me, Trump, Hegseth, I think, had this. Matt Gaetz had this. They can pick any man at random they don't like. They can call every girl he's ever known, and they can get a criminal case.
Anecdotally, it's a complicated situation here where the Tates were being held in Romania and weren't allowed to leave the country. I think as many as 40 women had come forward with allegations against them, but there had been no trial. In the UK, 4 other women had come forward to file civil claims against them. But again, there's been no trial there either. So they are technically innocent till proven guilty, as you would expect everyone to be. Their view is it's lawfare against them. Other people are saying, well, you know, go through the process, finish it off, face the music, face justice. What do you feel about this?
Well, it is a complicated problem. We have a presumption of innocence, but it doesn't apply when it comes to the Me Too movement. In the Me Too movement, if you call yourself a victim, you are deemed a victim, which means the person that you allegedly accuse is deemed to be guilty. For example, take the Jeffrey Epstein matter. They have refused to reveal a lot of material that would show that some of the accusers had a history of making up stories. So what they do is they protect the alleged victims without having decided who the victims are. In my case, I was accused, and it was ultimately proved that I was the victim. I didn't know anybody. I didn't do anything wrong. I was simply picked out and accused, and I was the victim. And the reason that I was able to prove that I was the victim was I had access to all this information, but the vast majority of people who are falsely accused can't prove that. So we have to maintain the presumption of innocence, even and especially in Me Too movements, where so many of the alleged accusers have a financial stake in making the accusation against prominent and wealthy people. So let's maintain our presumption of innocence for all cases, not just cases that are popular, and not defy it in cases that are unpopular. These guys may be guilty as hell. They may be innocent. They may be somewhere in between. Let's wait until the process unfolds before we attach consequences. And that's what...
Okay, if this guy has really been a victim of a false allegation before, then I understand why he's more likely to think that maybe like, when anybody who's a bit famous, if they get accused, they're being a victim of false allegations again. Okay, I can understand why like he would think that, but the difference with the Tate case though is that a lot of the evidence making him look bad comes from him, okay? And this is why it kind of slightly gets on my nerves when you get some people who, like, if anybody, like, says that the Tates are guilty, you get some people who are like, oh, what, so you just hashtag believe all women, do you? And it's like, well, no, because a lot of it comes from him. Okay, now, I do think, okay, the more allegations there are against somebody, the more likely it is to be true. Okay, but also it's the fact that Tate like is sort of self-snitched so much. Like one of the alleged victims, he there's a text conversation where he actually texted her saying, "I loved R-wording you." Okay, that was his words, all right, and you know, some people sort of tried to fob that off by saying, oh, well, he was probably joking. It was probably consensual BDSM where, like, I don't know, he was playing the dominant one or something. And as a joke, he texted, I love R-wording you. Okay. But it's also then followed by the voice recording of a telephone call that Tate had with the alleged victim, where he's basically saying, "I loved how much you hated it." Okay. And also, like, you heard him very clearly say, like, well, admit to strangling the woman, okay? And that is a common accusation that women have come up with, that Andrew Tate, like, strangled them, and some of them said they went unconscious, and when they came round, he was having sex with them. Like, while they were unconscious, he'd started having sex with them, and they came round, you know, while he was still having sex with them, all right? This is a common accusation, and this isn't all from women that know each other. There's women in Britain who made this accusation, and women in Romania, okay? So these aren't women that could have got together and, like, come up with this conspiracy together and tried to take him down, you know, because you get so many people that sort of trash the victims, the alleged victims, in the Tate case, but they seem to forget that, like, this is coming from him, okay? This is Andrew Tate's own words, all right? He said, "I loved how much you hated it." Now, there is no excuse. There is no excuse or any defense anybody can come up with for that. There is no defense of why it is okay for somebody to do something that somebody doesn't like and enjoy the pain they're inflicting on them, okay? Because he can't even say, like, "Oh, I accidentally took things too far and I didn't mean to hurt her." He can't even say that, because you can clearly hear his voice saying, "I loved how much you hated it." So, okay, so that's abuse, all right? The other thing, both Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate have admitted to having sex with underage girls, and yes, in Romania it is illegal to have sex with girls under the age of 16, okay, because some people thought it was legal to have sex with 15-year-olds in Romania, because Tristan Tate, like, made some tweet saying, like, oh, 30 is the age where it's legal to F somebody half your age, so people thought it was legal when it's not legal, okay? But even if it was, it wouldn't be okay. Like, I mean, for, like, adult men, like, to be, like, having sex with teenage children, again, there is no excuse, there is no defense people can make of this. And there are some extremely creepy text conversations that Andrew Tate has had with minors. There's also creepy text conversations that Tristan Tate had. There's one girl who, she was 16, but she lied about her age and said she was older. But when Tristan Tate found out that she'd lied about her age, he didn't stop having sex with her. Instead, he said, as punishment, he's going to be having sex with her anally. Okay, again, there's no excuse for this. This is a child, okay? This isn't even somebody who's an adult yet. And they're talked, you know, they've admitted to committing abuse against these girls. It's their words. You can't say it's false allegations when it's coming from them, okay? This is disgusting, okay? Andrew Tate is accused of anally R-wording a 15-year-old girl and strangling her until she goes unconscious. Okay?
Yeah, good people. Let's see what he's accused of again. Just to remind you, he is charged with raping a 15-year-old girl anally. This has not been dismissed. This is ongoing. And this was a girl who had apparently lied for him initially to the police, but I think they'd wiretapped her and found out that she wasn't being truthful. They brought her back in and said, "Look, we know you're lying. Tell us the full truth." And Andrew Tate allegedly had bribed her a few grand to not say anything. And when she started talking, they've got some quotations here, I'll read this. "When we had sex, Andrew was often aggressive with me in the sense that he beat me with a belt, choked me. It happened that once he choked me until I fainted. Circumstances in which he woke me up by slapping me in the face." She also said, "You take her so young, you fool her and make her your slave. Fuck you. Anyway, think about it, bro. When I was little, I had sex with him. God, he put his dick in my ass and I was telling him, stop, bro. He choked me, fuck, when I was little. I mean, look, this is where it's been highlighted. Continuous sex acts with a minor. This is the legal documents here. And this is what the Trump administration are letting back out onto the streets, man. Unbelievable. And look, I know a lot of Trump haters.
Okay, now I don't think, I mean, if he's guilty of that, I don't think he should see the light of day again. Okay, now people can say like, oh, well, you know, we could be false allegations, innocent until proven guilty. And, you know, okay, yes, that is true. But we know that he has had sex with underage girls because he's admitted it. We do know that he likes to strangle women and he gets off on their pain. We know that because he's admitted it. And we also know that he's been accused, I think it's 37 women that we know of that he's that have accused him of R-wording them. I know I said 40 in another video, but I think it's 37, and that's only the ones that we've heard of. Okay, it's most likely a lot more. All right. Also, I want to point out, because Andrew Tate loves strangling women so much, his ex-girlfriend Vivian, there's a clip going around of her saying that she's seen people accidentally choke their girlfriends to death before.
That's the reasoning behind like why some girls don't like it, because they're scared they're gonna die. I've actually seen some guys actually accidentally, how funny is that? Actually accidentally kill their girlfriends during a sex because they were choking them that hard.
Okay, now she doesn't mention Andrew Tate's name here, so we can't know it's him that she's talking about. She's likely come across many dodgy people. Also, we can't know for definite that she's telling the truth. But if you want my honest opinion, it really wouldn't surprise me if he's killed people before. It wouldn't, okay? It's a common thing that some of the alleged victims claimed that the next day after he strangled them, the next day their eyes were all red and bloodshot. Okay, and this is meant to be apparently because if the brain gets starved of oxygen, blood vessels start bursting in the head, and this is like a desperate attempt, your body's a desperate attempt to get oxygen to your brain, okay? So you don't need to be a medical expert to know that's dangerous. So, you know, again, these guys are scum, and this is based on the stuff that they have admitted to, okay? The stuff that they have admitted to is abusive. It's illegal. It's okay. And people keep saying, yeah, well, they're innocent until proven guilty. And it's like, yeah, but a lot of it is like they have admitted to. And if that's presented in a court of law, I do not think they've got a cat and house chance of walking away from that, okay? But the Tate fans, they just outright say like, oh no, they've not done anything, there's no evidence, they're completely innocent. They won't even say like, oh well, they might be guilty, let's wait until see whether they're found guilty or innocent. They don't even say that. They outright say like, no, they're innocent. And it's like, how can you say that? Like, the stuff they've admitted to is crimes, you know, unless Tate is making false allegations against himself.
We're doing attach consequences to the claim of victimization. Some people who claim victimization are not victims.
But from a legal point of view, can the Romanian authorities force them to go back to Romania to continue the legal process there? And in the UK, there are calls for them to be extradited back to the UK. Again, can that happen? I mean, in other words, is there any way that the Tate brothers can be forced to return either to Romania or the UK to face what many think would be a proper due process of justice?
Yes, if there are extradition treaties between Romania and the two countries, they can be extradited pursuant to the law. Again, that's consistent with the presumption of innocence. That is, you must return to face trial. In fact, the Romanian authorities conditioned their release on a commitment by them that they would return to face charges if the Romanian authorities insisted on bringing these charges. So part of the presumption of innocence is that you must submit yourself to a process by which your guilt can be determined. So it cuts both ways.
Okay, Zach Bonfiglio, you know, I've interviewed the Tates a few times now, Andrew Tate, I think 3 or 4 times. And I got to say, most young people, young men under the age of about 25, they come up to me all the time and just want to know what do I really think about Andrew Tate. And I'm not entirely sure. You know, if all the allegations against him are true, he's a despicable abuser of women. Some of the stuff he said from his own mouth, which is on tapes that have gone viral on social media, is reprehensible. He says it's mostly performative. He doesn't really mean it. It's like it's all part of an act, role play, and so on. He ran a webcam business and made a lot of money for him and his brother, and also for many of these girls concerned, which again muddies the waters of what was really going on. And we may never know. There's no proper court case here. But I would also say that they have huge influence, the Tates, and a lot of what they say to young men about working out, keeping fit, etc., etc., etc. All the sort of more positive stuff is fine. Where they cross a line for me, Andrew Tate in particular, is the constant misogyny, which I think is really damaging. And putting aside the allegations against him of a much more serious nature, sex trafficking and so on, the constant misogyny pumped out to millions of his followers, and in particular impressionable young men, boys, I think is very damaging. What's your view of the Tates?
Well, I think that that people are conflating two different things, all right? They think that the reason why certain people presume that the Tates aren't guilty is because of things that they said, right? Like you said, some of the things that he said are reprehensible. I don't care what he said. I care what he did. It's important to remember that a lot of the evidence that's put forward against Andrew Tate was uploaded by Andrew Tate. There is a video of him slapping around a girl whose age has been verified through court documents to be 15 years old, all right? I mean, there's no presumption of innocence when I can see it, okay? And you're talking about, again, the court of public opinion versus the court of law. We want him to have due process, but innocent until proven guilty doesn't mean that you are innocent. It just means that you have to go through the process, which they are doing. The court cases in Romania, if similar to the UK, could take 4 to 6 years based on the average sexual assault case in that country. So the people that are saying, oh, if he was guilty, he would already be in jail. No, I mean, this process takes a very long time. Even in the US, it can take years. So the fact that it's been just under 3 years and he hasn't been found guilty yet does not mean he's innocent. We're being told that he's innocent because he hasn't been proven guilty. Wrong. If I see somebody doing something on camera and I can verify that the thing that they are doing is illegal, I am going to say that that person committed a crime. So we're being gaslit by the people that support Andrew Tate.
Well, also, and also, Zach, I think you're a MAGA. You identify as MAGA, is that correct?
Correct.
Right. So what's really interesting to me about all this is also the politics, which is you have the Republican movement in America pretty split down the middle here, where you've got a lot of Republicans who say, look, the Tates, they're a force for good. What they've been saying is empowering to young men, etc., and we embrace and support them. You see that a lot at the moment. You also see a lot of people like Ben Shapiro and Megyn Kelly and others, very high-profile conservative commentators, hammering them. So you're seeing the Republican movement split pretty much down the middle here, and a sort of battle.
I don't think it's the middle.
Well, and a battle for what the actual values of the Republican Party now are. What do you feel about that?
Again, I don't think that it's even split closely down the middle. I think that there is a loud voice of a small group of people that support Andrew Tate that have nothing to do with conservative values, Republican values, constitutional values, nothing. These are clout chasers who are just going after Andrew Tate because he has a lot of influence, he drives a lot of attention, and he's very good at messaging. I mean, the people that I've seen that are joining in on the fight against the Tates on my side, these are true MAGA, true conservatives. They are the majority of the party, and I bet you if you were to really look at it and dive deep, take a poll, and find out how many MAGA are in support of Andrew Tate, the number would be very small. The problem is we're viewing this through the online space of social media clout, where they get engagement and they I would say like
which they themselves can fuel to many millions of people, thereby massively amplifying it.
It's the same thing.
Let me bring in Michael Franzese. I mean, Michael, famously the mafia did a lot of very bad things, as we know, but they also had a famous respect for women. Right? How would the mafia, well, how do you, as a former mafia captain, how do you view somebody like the Tates, and in particular Andrew Tate, given the brazen misogyny that pours out of his mouth?
Well, Piers, let me say this. I've spent a lot of time with both brothers. I visited Romania twice, spent several days with them. Both times I had my wife and daughter with me, my younger daughter. And I want to respectfully disagree with Zach. Innocent until proven guilty means you're innocent legally. You can take a photo, you can take a video, it's taken out of context. I know this for a fact. I was tried 5 times. I was charged with criminal activity 5 times. I went to trial 5 times. The case was either dismissed or I was acquitted in each case. They couldn't come up with a conviction. And I'll say this. You said it earlier, Piers. A lot of what Andrew does or says is an act.
Okay, I've heard this claim before, like from Tate fans, that, oh, he's just playing a character. Okay, and these are guys that are either lying or haven't actually, looked at the tape recording where he is admitting to grooming young women, okay, and teenage girls, okay. He goes into sort of deep, psychological techniques and manipulation tactics. Okay, this isn't, we're not talking about, because some people try to make out once again that he's just in trouble for saying a few sexist things on social media or making some sexist TikTok videos, and really he's just playing a character. And it's like, that's not what he's in trouble for. Okay, he has sold courses, the pimp and hose degree. Okay, he sold courses on how to manipulate women, how to isolate them from their friends and family, how to control them, okay, how to get them to fall in love with you, or how to get them to feel like they're dependent on you. And also Justin Waller has been present in some of the videos showing his courses. Again, this isn't just a guy doing some sort of sexist stuff to get attention on YouTube and TikTok and social media, okay? This guy's like, again, if all this is played out in court, like, he hasn't got a cat in house chance of being found innocent.
I've met him, I know their personal story, I know their background. I went into the case with them in Romania, which is, by the way, falling apart. There is no evidence. I've spoken to some of the women that were forced to say things. They refused, but the government was trying to get them to say things against Andrew and Tristan. They refused to do it. They told me exactly what happened. The case is falling apart there. I don't think it's ever going to go to trial because there is no evidence. And, for them to come here in Florida and DeSantis to, all of a sudden open up an investigation based upon what? Based upon the news media, based upon the Me Too movement. There's no evidence there to say they did anything criminal whatsoever. And, I think
Okay, this guy, Michael, is, as he just said, really good friends with Andrew Tate, is in close contact with him. And he's been, like he said, part of the mafia. He's been in prison before, is what I read. I don't trust people that are friends with Andrew Tate who defend him. I don't. I think either they're being paid, because Andrew Tate does pay some people to say he's innocent, or he knows full well that the Tates are guilty, but just doesn't care and is quite happy to have somebody who's done this to women and teenage girls walk free because he likes him. Okay, that's what I think. I do not trust somebody who's good friends with Andrew Tate. And he's sort of being like, oh, but I've got a wife and daughter and they get on really well with the Tates. And it's all that kind of like trying to make out like, oh, no, he's not a misogynist, or the videos are taken out of context. It's like, this is videos of Tate confessing to all the crimes that he's been accused of, okay? And that Michael, he's got a YouTube channel, and I watched just a little bit of a video that he's done defending Tate, only a small bit of it I watched, and he was, going on about how, that video that people complain about of Tate beating Vivian, Vivian says like it's consensual, but he conveniently forgets to mention that she's only 15, in the video on his channel. He conveniently forgets to mention that. So at 15, like, she's too young to consent to anything sexual anyway. I kind of think like that video, it doesn't actually look consensual, Andrew Tate looks angry, and looks like he's really beating her. But even if, for argument's sake, even if you say, like, okay, it's consensual, they were just role-playing, it's like, well, she's still too young to consent, okay? She's a woman who has been groomed by Andrew Tate since she was 15 years old, okay? But also, not all of the videos you see of Tate beating women are consensual. There's one, where a girl runs away and locks herself in a bathroom to get away from Andrew Tate, okay? They don't all look consensual. But also, it's like, don't people question why he likes hitting women so much? I mean, these people that just defend absolutely everything he does. It's like, okay, there's video after video of him beating women, whether it's and it doesn't look like it's always consensual, but even if it was, aren't you going to ask, why does he like hitting women in the first place? Why does he like strangling women? Why, when he strangled a woman, did he say he loved how much she hated it? Again, his words. Does anybody actually question why that is? Because it sounds like he gets a sadistic pleasure out of hurting women, to me.
Bottom line, I can tell you this. I can tell you this. In Florida, there's people that are asking Andrew to run for Congress. He had a very warm reception there outside of DeSantis. He's got a very warm reception in Vegas. And if he comes to California, he'll have a very warm reception here.
See what I mean? He's just lying. Okay, there's like thousands of pages of evidence. Like I said, 37 women that have come forward. There's even an eyewitness. There's even a woman claiming that she's seen another woman being R-worded, and getting an eyewitness to grape is it's almost unheard of, because that's a crime, you know, it's hard to prove because there aren't any witnesses. It's normally behind closed doors in private, okay? And I know that some people might say, like, well, yeah, but this woman could be lying. The woman who claims to be an eyewitness, she could be lying. And, well, yeah, that is true. But then that's true about any eyewitness to any crime, isn't it? That's why people go to court, and that's why, you know, witnesses are cross-examined and all that in court, so the jury can decide whether they're a reliable witness and all that. That's the whole point, you see. Okay. But when people keep saying, like, innocent until proven guilty, it's like, yeah, and I do take that extremely seriously, but there are some cases when the evidence is so overwhelming, it's like, you know that if it goes to trial, they're going to be found guilty, okay? There are cases like that, you know, when you've actually seen with your own eyes the video footage, you've heard what Andrew Tate has had to say, you've seen the text conversations, that they've had with underage girls. And I haven't even looked at all the evidence online, you know, that's publicly available. I haven't even looked at all of it. I've looked at enough to say, like, yeah, they're guilty, but I haven't looked at everything. Like, so yeah, when you get these people who seem to think that, oh, because they haven't been convicted of anything yet, that's proof that they're innocent. It's like, well, no, because you obviously you can't be convicted until you've gone to trial, okay? And Tate is the one who sort of tries to prolong going to trial, okay? In Romania, part of the reason why it was taking so long is because the Tate's lawyers were finding fault with the indictment, and that's not problems with the evidence, it was just like errors in the indictment, okay, which they have every right to do, but the reason why they keep finding these faults really is because they're trying to prolong it, because despite what Andrew Tate says about wanting to go to trial as soon as possible to prove their innocence, really no, they don't want to go to trial, okay? So they've got a lot of evidence, but also another reason why it was taking a long time is because DICOT, because they found even more evidence, and they were trying to merge like two cases together or something. I don't really like understand it properly. Like I've said, for people who are interested in this, I recommend following Murdered with Crayons on Twitter, or X, sorry, and Gadget on YouTube, because they go into this a lot of detail with this, okay? And there's also a criminal and a civil case in the UK that they're meant to have in the UK, and that's the civil case is meant to take place in April, and the Tates don't actually have to be present for the civil case. The criminal case, the UK has got permission to extradite the Tates from Romania after they finish with them in Romania. And now I know that, seeing as the Tates have now gone to the USA, that this complicates things somewhat. Obviously, the Tates are supposed to return to Romania for their case in Romania. Whether they will or not, I don't know. I did read that if they don't turn up in Romania when they're supposed to, they can apparently be forced to be in prison, kept in prison until like you know, the trial, or until they finish the investigations. But of course, for that to happen, they'd still have to extradite them from the USA to Romania. So, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen there. Or if Romania drop the case for whatever reason, then they should be extradited to the UK to face trial here in the UK, and we're apparently trial ready here. Okay, so, you know, these cases aren't falling apart. I don't know what is going to happen. I don't know whether the government, the US government, did sort of interfere, and that's why they've been allowed to leave Romania, right? So I don't know what's going to happen. but it's not lack of evidence. This is what Andrew Tate keeps saying, and Andrew Tate's friends, like this Michael, will say, but they're just lying.
We've got a clip of Andrew Tate. He went on the Candace Owens show, and he was talking about Florida's politics involving him. Let's take a look.
I'm truly disgusted. And if I be honest, there's a lot of rumors flying around. I got a phone call from somebody very important who told me that the DeSantis crew are extremely worried that I was going to support Byron against his wife in the Floridian governor elections. I'm new to this. I don't know anything about Floridian politics. I didn't even know DeSantis and Trump didn't get along. I didn't know any of this. I'm just a man after 3 years who flew home. And everyone's telling me that you're a political pawn and you can motivate and activate the masculine youth and you're going to get them all to vote against his wife. And that's why they're trying to take you out politically because Trump supported the guy against his wife. This is brand new to me.
Let me bring in Sarah Stock here. I mean, a lot of women like the Tates. A lot of women hate the Tates. There's not much middle ground here. Like I say, as someone I'm a father of 3 sons, all adult, but I wouldn't like to hear them talk about women the way that Andrew Tate does. And he seems to pride himself on it. Are you entirely comfortable with being completely supportive of him without really knowing perhaps the truth about what happened with all these other women who've made the very serious claims?
I don't think I've ever claimed to be completely supportive of Andrew Tate. I mean, I'm a Christian. I don't agree with a lot of the sexual degenerate lifestyle that he promotes, which, by the way, I would say a lot of people in the conservative movement promote similar sexual degenerate lifestyles themselves. We have Dave Rubin renting out women's wombs to buy surrogate children with his husband. And I find that equally as disgusting. But I think we need to be able to separate people's personal lives from what's actually going on here legally and say, okay, Andrew Tate is a U.S. citizen. He's just trying to fly home. And then we have this whole politically motivated witch hunt to go after him. This would not be happening if he wasn't a public figure and if he didn't have such controversial views. And I'd also say that I think when Tate first came out on the scene, a lot of conservatives, big names like Ben Shapiro or whatever, fully supported him because they saw that feminists were going after him for saying these misogynistic things about women, and it was totally blown out of proportion. Ever since Tate started talking about Israel and going after what's happening with Israel and Palestine, I've noticed that the tone's changed a lot in conservative circles.
Yeah, I mean, that is interesting.
That is true, actually, that some of them didn't speak out against Andrew Tate until he started saying stuff about Palestine and Israel. Okay, but that doesn't mean that they're wrong for speaking out. It just means that they should have spoke out earlier, okay? It's a case of, like, they didn't really care that he was admitting to doing all this bad stuff until he said some things that they didn't like, and then suddenly they called it out, okay? Which, that's a shame. They should have called it out earlier. But saying like, oh, this wouldn't happen to him if he wasn't a public figure, well, it's like, it is kind of true that he might not have got found out if he hadn't become famous. Because like a lot of his old videos where he's admitted to doing this bad stuff would have flown under the radar, but because he then became famous for like his controversial views, then that's when all this like stuff sort of came public. So he might have stayed under the radar if he hadn't come famous, but he had allegations made against him before he had become famous, okay? Because I think the first time he went on Piers Morgan's show, Andrew Tate said that he'd never been accused of grape before, and that's not true. He had been accused of grape before he even became famous. As for Tate and other people acting like, oh, poor Tate, he's got these, he came to Florida and now he's got these horrible meanies wanting to launch an investigation against him. I think that the Tates have been incredibly lucky. I don't think they should have been allowed to leave Romania. I don't think they should have even been allowed out of prison. Because the Tates have tried to intimidate witnesses before, okay? Andrew Tate had tried to intimidate witnesses, like even when he was in prison, and he was found out because his phone calls were being recorded, and Tate didn't know that his phone calls were going to be recorded in prison. And then even when they were allowed to leave Romania, the first place they go to is Florida, and one of the alleged victims live in Florida, so they went straight for where she lives. And the first thing the Tates did is take out a restraining order against her and say that she's caused them emotional distress. Like, when she hadn't done anything to them, they decided to go to the same country she lives in. Okay, it's just them playing the victim again and trying to intimidate a witness. And this is why I don't think they should have been allowed out of prison in the first place. Because it seems to me that people that have been accused of less severe crimes, they get held in prison up until their trial and during their trial. Well, Tates that have been accused of horrendous stuff, they're allowed to leave prison, they're allowed to leave the country. I don't think they should have been.
And I'll bring Alan in on that. I mean, I have noticed that too. There's no doubt that certain people in the Conservative movement have turned against the Tates, having previously been pretty supportive of them, because Andrew Tate converted to Islam, or said he did, and has been very outspoken attacking Israel and supporting the Palestinians, which again is maybe part of the reason why the Conservative movement is so split over them.
Well, he certainly has the right to be pro-Palestinian.
Sorry, that's for Alan. Sorry, yeah.
It doesn't change my views on the presumption of innocence. Indeed, it strengthens it. If he's unpopular because of his views on Israel, we have to make sure that we reaffirm his presumption of innocence legally on the serious charges he faces. So for me, his views on Israel are irrelevant legally. They're perfectly relevant as to whether I would support him as a person or not, but so are his other activities and what he has said on television, his attitude toward women. All of that influences my decision not to support him in any way, politically or ideologically, but I go out of the way to make sure I support the presumption of innocence even more strongly for people with whom I disagree politically.
Right. I mean,
the presumption of innocence does not mean that you have a free pass just because you are a public figure or you're a political target against some of these really serious accusations. And for Governor DeSantis and AG Uthmeier to say they're coming to Florida and there's credible evidence that there was a nexus to Florida, that allegedly he's grooming women that he ultimately used who were minors on his webcam on pornography. I mean, sex trafficking, pornography, those are not political issues when it comes to the law. And so presumption of innocence doesn't mean, again, that he gets a free pass or that this is lawfare. Because if we're suggesting that just because we agree with Andrew Tate on some things and that lawfare does happen in political targeting, then somehow we're going to shield him as a political ally, then that is also lawfare. And we should not, as conservatives, support that, because either you are for the rule of law or you are not.
Yeah, I mean, look, just to remind people exactly what it is they're facing. I mean, the 4 women in the UK who filed a civil lawsuit against Andrew Tate, it was for rape and coercive control. They issued a statement to CNN that said, "We're in disbelief. We feel re-traumatized by the news the Romanian authorities have given into pressure from the Trump administration to allow Andrew Tate to travel to the United States. They're still awaiting trial in Romania over 40 serious charges of trafficking, coercion, and rape. Romanian prosecutors said that only the travel restrictions against the brothers have been lifted, while all other obligations remain in effect, including the requirement to appear before judicial authorities whenever summoned." I mean, on that point, Zach, I mean, I guess it's possible they could be forced back to Romania. I think it's unlikely. I mean, I think if you're the Tates, you're going to keep moving probably around America until you find a safe state where they may have found it already in Las Vegas, judging by the reaction they got there. And you're going to stay there, aren't you, rather than risk any more legal jeopardy? You're not going to voluntarily get on any more planes out of America, are you?
Well, sure, but also it's. Oh, sorry.
Well, Alan, on the legal bit, I'll come to Zach for a response. But Alan, legally, what's the position there?
Extradition is a federal issue, not a state issue. And so if the Romanian authorities seek to extradite him, they will seek from the United States Justice Department his extradition. And if the extradition, which is a treaty matter, is carried through, no matter where he tries to hide, in whatever state might give him better protection, Las Vegas, Nevada, instead of Florida, he's not going to be protected from federal extradition.
But if it turns out, Alan, if it turns out that the Trump administration, as has been widely rumoured, did directly get involved with Romania at government level to allow them to leave the country, that would suggest they're probably not going to entertain the idea under the Trump administration of allowing extradition to happen.
That's correct. And actually, extradition takes 2 forms. First, you have to go and get a court decree, but then the United States government and the State Department and the Justice Department have to validate it, and the Trump administration could preclude him from being sent back to Romania. Again, I state that only as a legal conclusion, not as something I think should happen.
Right, so Zach, I mean, it seems to me, like I say, my gut feeling is they're not going to get on any planes leaving America, that they found a safe sanctuary, if it is true, as I think it probably is, that the Trump administration at some level has done some kind of deal, agreement with the Romanian authorities to let them leave in the first place. I think it's just unlikely they're going to entertain any thought of allowing extradition. Therefore, they can stay in America, avoid any more legal activity if they are not in a state like Florida, which has now indicated it would independently investigate them. So if they find a friendly state, like I say, that probably means it's the end of their legal jeopardy. And many people will say, well, that's completely wrong.
Yeah, I think, well, there's a couple things. First of all, there is a victim in Florida. She's one of the victims named in the Romanian lawsuit, right? And one of Andrew Tate's supporters just doxed this woman with her full name yesterday or the day before. So when Andrew Tate came to Florida stating, where are the victims? Where are the victims? 4 out of the 7 victims in the Romanian case have not recanted their statements, all right? This victim in Florida just reaffirmed her statement to the Romanian authorities. Secondly, you talk about hiding in states that are friendly to him, which he probably assumed was a Florida one. I believe that it's the Protect Act of 2003, Section 105, makes it a federal crime to have sex with any persons under the age of 18 abroad. It's basically a sex tourism law. It's applied to a lot of people who go to Thailand and come back, and then they get arrested here. As far as Trump and the Trump administration assisting him, the Romanian authorities have come out and said that that's actually not true. That's a rumor, and it's based off of the fact that Rick Grinnell said that he supports the Tate as per his publicly available tweets. It's a very bad optics look for Alina Habba to be on Betty Johnson's podcast with him saying she's a big fan, Rick Grinnell saying he's a fan, and a couple of other people in the Trump orbit. But I don't think that Trump himself has intervened at all in this. If anything, it is a rogue actor like a possibly Grinnell. And if that's true, Rick Grinnell needs to be fired, because you can't start intervening on cases in other countries, especially when it comes to the sex trafficking of children. As far as these MAGA conservatives, we talk all the time, release the Epstein list, release the Epstein list. The Tate list has already been released by Andrew Tate. There's dozens of hours of footage of him admitting on camera through multiple interviews that he has sex with underage girls and simultaneously calls himself a Romanian citizen, or sorry, a United States citizen. So if you are a United States citizen and you are not respecting our laws, traveling abroad and sleeping with girls who in this country are considered minors, you are now a minor attracted person. You are now considered in this country to be committing a crime under the Protect Act. So I don't think that Andrew Tate can hide anywhere. I think that if with enough pressure from, like I said, true MAGA to the Trump administration, I believe he's going to come out very soon and condemn them the same way he condemned Jeffrey Epstein after he found out about his nefarious activities.
Okay, Michael, I think last time I spoke to you, we talked about the fact you'd faced a boycott of your stage show because people objected to the fact you'd interviewed Andrew Tate, which I thought was a preposterous attack on your free speech.
Okay, most of the time when people get annoyed about people platforming the Tates, it's not that they're saying that they shouldn't speak to them. It's the fact that they just let them lie and they don't challenge them. Like a lot of the people, they don't even do minimum research when they have the Tates on, and they just let them lie after lie after lie without even challenging them. When Andrew Tate went on the Benny Johnson show, Benny Johnson basically introduced Andrew Tate as like this poor guy who's been held in a Romanian prison for no reason when he hasn't done anything wrong. Okay, when, like, it's not true. Like, they let him on there and they just let him lie and they don't challenge him, okay? When, Andrew Tate went on the Tucker Carlson show, he told Tucker Carlson that he hadn't been charged with any sexual crimes, and that's...
So there's no, just to be clear, you are not accused of pandering, of pimping, of forcing women to have sex with anybody.
No, not forcing them to have sex, not restraining their movement, not stopping them from living a full life, but the fact that we are somehow convincing them to have TikTok. Very interesting.
True, he was charged of rape and sex trafficking, okay? And Tucker Carlson just seemed to just nod along while he says this stuff and he doesn't challenge him, okay? Recently, Andrew Tate went on the Hodgkin twins podcast, I think they're called. And he just lied continuously, uninterrupted, and these guys, not only did they not challenge him, they didn't even, like, ask him any questions or anything. They just sat there nodding along, going, Well, Andrew Tate told lie after lie after lie, because, Gadget, did a video about this, and he counted the amount of lies that they told, and I think it was like 150 lies that Andrew Tate told, and this was like in the space of a few minutes. Okay, so I recommend that video, or I'll link it down below. So this is the problem that people have, is that they invite Andrew Tate onto their podcasts, and they've done no research about him. They let him just continuously tell lie after lie after lie, and they don't even challenge him. Okay, I mean, people wouldn't have such an issue with people talking to the Tates if they would at least challenge them and not just let them keep lying. Now, this Michael Franzese, like, I haven't seen any interviews or talks or anything that he's done with Andrew Tate, but just through being here on the Piers Morgan show, he's just lying for Andrew Tate, like saying that his case is basically falling apart, they've got no evidence, no witnesses. It's all lies, okay? These are the lies that Andrew Tate has been parroting for years.
And free speech, is something that Andrew Tate goes on about a lot and says that this is an attempt to silence him, it's the Matrix, and so on and so on. But if it turns out that this stuff is all true, a lot of people who are throwing their weight behind fully supporting him will look pretty stupid, won't they?
Well, I guess you can say that. But, listen, first of all, I want to disagree with something. Rick Purnell, you don't fire somebody like that because they support somebody that's innocent until proven guilty. You may have a different...
If he intervened, not if he supports them, but if he intervened and he went and he did it behind Trump's back, get rid of him now for optics purposes only.
We don't know that, and I don't think they're concerned about optics. I think they really know about lawfare since Trump was a victim of that, and I think we can all agree on that. They understand lawfare. I can tell you this, if this didn't happen through if the Me Too movement wasn't at its height, I don't think Andrew would be going through all of this, Tristan neither.
Okay, it's got nothing to do with the Me Too movement that people do not like a guy who has admitted to grooming young women and teenage girls as young as 15 and got them to do cam girl work. Okay, it's nothing to do with the Me Too movement that people think that the Tates having sex with underage girls, having sex with children as young as 15 is wrong. It's got nothing to do with the Me Too movement. Okay, the fact that he's been accused of R-wording over 37 women, and it looks like there's a lot of evidence that he's guilty. That's got nothing to do with Me Too movement, okay? He chose to text one of them, "I love graping you," okay? We've heard his voice recording in a telephone conversation with one of the alleged victims, okay? We've seen text conversations that they've had with underage girls, okay? They've done enough stuff to show that they are repulsive, evil scumbags, and it's got nothing to do with Me Too, okay? We weren't brainwashed by Me Too into thinking this is wrong, okay? If there was no Me Too movement, we'd still think that this is wrong, okay?
I believe that. And again, I know their attorney. I've looked into the case. I'm very familiar with the charges in Romania. Those charges are falling apart. I don't think they had any right in Florida to arbitrarily start an investigation. It was politically motivated. It's very easy to see.
It wasn't arbitrary. It wasn't arbitrary. There is a victim who is... No, that is what the purpose of the Attorney General in Florida is doing, is protecting victims when, as Zach said, I mean, Andrew Tate has said himself, and it's on video, and I mean, if this were anybody else, take it aside that it's Andrew Tate, if this were a Tren-Diaragua gang member, if this were somebody that was a violent, illegal alien, then MAGA would all be saying ship him back to Mexico. But the fact that they like Andrew Tate because he has certain touch points and is very popular, now suddenly this is lawfare. That is not the way that the law works. That's not the way the presumption of innocence works. And that should not be the way that conservatives champion our values. We have to get back to understanding where the parameters are, because this isn't political. Sex trafficking isn't political. Putting women on webcams and pornography, that's not political when it comes to the Attorney General of Florida doing his job.
Yeah, well, I disagree, and I think what you should do, there's a video out there. There was a decision that came down by the civil court judge with respect to this woman, and Tristan explains it in the video, and that came out a couple of months ago. I'm not going to get into that, but I think what you're saying about this victim is not true, and the court found out otherwise in the civil matter. So you should look into that before you make a statement. And it's not exactly...
The Florida Attorney General is looking into it. That's the point.
It was, but well, you should look into it also, because you're making a statement, and there was already a decision rendered by the judge in this case.
Florida has not brought charges yet. They're opening an investigation. And what you're suggesting is that that is a politically motivated investigation when an investigation is simply to determine the facts. Well, you believe it. That doesn't make that true. And so the Florida Attorney General's job is to look at whether there is criminal activity.
It doesn't make what you're saying is true either. This is your assumption. And I'm saying DeSantis, it's a known fact. DeSantis and Trump do not get along. What Andrew said was exactly right.
At Mar-a-Lago the other day, DeSantis and Trump get along, and it is Roger Stone who is pushing out MAGA to continue this ridiculous rift. DeSantis and Trump fully get along. They put their past behind them with that they ran in the primary, just like Marco Rubio, who ran against Trump in 2016, is now the Secretary of State. That is a false talking point that's being perpetuated to try to drive a wedge between Trump and DeSantis. That's completely false.
Well, that's what you say. That's your opinion of it. That's not
I mean,
true.
then why are they golfing at Mar-a-Lago together? And there was a photo that DeSantis just tweeted out of Casey and Trump on the golf course together.
Excuse me, a lot of people get together with Trump. That doesn't mean they're good friends, and you should know that, and I know that. Okay, you want to talk about optics? There are optics, but it happens to be.
Michael,
No,
Michael, can I ask you if you had any contact with Andrew Tate since he got to America?
Yes, I have. And I'll probably be seeing him in the next few days. My daughter's having an engagement party, and both the Tates are invited. I know these boys better than just about anybody here. I have a personal relationship. And Piers, I want to tell you something. I've had my daughter communicates with Tristan all the time. Very respectful, no issue. And that's because I've delved into their past. These two young men grew up in a very difficult situation, extremely difficult, that none of you people are aware of. I'm not saying everything they did was right. Look, I have a very independent wife and 5 very independent daughters. I'm anything but a misogynist, and I don't respect misogynism in any way, shape, or form. I was accused of misogyny by a person in the United Kingdom Parliament just because I had a picture with Andrew Tate. So that's how out of control this has gone with the Me Too movement. Had the Me Too movement not been at its apex, I don't even believe these boys would have been indicted. And you know, if you want to talk about,
if the Me Too movement hadn't
talk
pushed
about OnlyFans, why don't they invite the guy that created OnlyFans? Because
keep
a lot
bringing
of
up the
stuff
Me
that
Too
goes on
movement.
there that's not right.
Just because the Me Too movement overcorrected with believe all women, it doesn't mean that we should start saying believe no women. There is very credible
Nobody's saying
evidence
that.
against the Tates. Right, so you
How
can't
do
just
you-
say, "Oh, we don't." If your argument is that Andrew Tate comes out and claims, "All right, there are no victims," and then I go, "Hey, here's 5 victims." Andrew Tate is a liar. Okay, I am telling you there are victims. They have not recanted their statements, and you keep on running with this whole talking about there's no evidence. There's no evidence. Right? There's hundreds of thousands of pages of documents in the Romanian court case. I can send you a picture if you'd like. I've run through many of court documents. Okay, so you've run through
Why is it
out of all
why
of
is
that
it
evidence,
taken-
you're gonna make a statement that says none of that's true. Okay, no, I'm not
Why
saying
is it
that.
taking?
I'm not,
Let me ask you a question, Zach. You're so
because in
familiar. Why is
Romania it
taking
takes years.
No, it's taken years because of a lack of evidence. That's
How
why
long
it's
did
taking
the Trump? Hey,
and there is
listen.
evidence.
Donald Trump's case was on accusation only. All right, there is no video of Donald Trump slapping around a 15-year-old girl. There is no video of Donald Trump saying he
Please
sleeps with
don't talk
15-year-olds.
about
There is
Donald
no
Trump.
video of Donald Trump. There's no evidence of
What's the
Donald Trump
result?
anally
What's the
raping a
result of all
15-year-old,
the?
choking her.
What is the
Right?
result of all the cases against Donald Trump?
How long did that take?
What's the
How long did
result?
it take?
No, answer
Yeah,
that.
but how long did it
What's
take?
the result of all the cases
some of them
against Donald Trump?
Okay,
No,
Alan wants to jump. Let Alan jump in. Alan?
I want to add something legally. Evidence, it matters where it occurred. That is, for Florida to conduct a successful investigation, the actual crime has to have occurred in Florida. It doesn't matter if she was a Florida citizen or a resident of Florida. If it happened in Romania, Florida has no jurisdiction. Now, you did correctly mention a statute, the tourism statute, but that requires that you travel to a place for the purpose of having sex with an underage girl. If you have a relationship, you live in Romania, you're in Romania for a long period of time, and you happen to have a relationship with somebody who is underage, under Florida law or Las Vegas, Nevada law, that wouldn't be enough. So from a legal point of view, it's very important to know where the allegations occurred and what the evidence is that there was a crime within the jurisdiction of the state, or if it's a federal crime, within the jurisdiction of the travel, et cetera, et cetera. So from a legal point of view, very different from a public relations point of view, the specifics are very, very important. And I'm not aware of a lot of the specifics here as to whether or not there is proof that any of them committed crimes within the jurisdiction of a particular state or the United States. Maybe there is, and if so, then investigation is completely proper.
That's a
And
really
the Florida Attorney General has said that there is. And until that investigation reaches its conclusion, I think it's very premature to suggest that this is purely political when we're talking
well. If there
about
is evidence,
minors.
as Alan said, if there is evidence, then that will be potentially a game changer. Let me bring in Sarah because we've run out of time. But Sarah, you've been waiting patiently here. I am genuinely fascinated by what's going on about the heart of the conservative movement in America, because it always used to be the party of Republicans, the party of...
Okay, so that's basically the end of that. I'll leave the video down below for if anybody watching this hasn't already seen it before and want to watch it. Okay, thank you for listening.